Whoa. Now that's just freaky. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlisify here, and this is how to use Xurkitree. So Xurkitree is going to be a pure electric Pokemon, which means pure electric things. Like, we only have to worry about the ground weakness, and then we have the resistance to flying, steel, and electric Pokemon. So that seems pretty good right there. Offensively, it's a little less good. That ground, we're going to be immune by that. Dragon, electric, and grass Pokemon are going to resist us. And the only thing we hit super effective are flying and water type Pokemon. So that's just okay. Now, when we look at Xurkitree's stats, that's a lot of stats. That's a 173 in the special attack. But now we can actually see a little bit of problems with the Xurkitree right there that has an 89 attack. It means that we're not going to get the most out of our special attack. Like, we can have a huge special attack and also have some good defensive stats, but Xurkitree doesn't have any of that. It actually might be one of the weaker Ultra Beast. We're going to see how it ends up playing out, but with that 173 special attack, you expect great things, but it starts to balance itself out, especially when you don't even have like a 100 something base speed. That 83 speed is just killing us. Actually, this shows to be one of the least Ultra Beast stat kind of Pokemon. Like, yeah, the 173 special attack is absolutely mind-blowing, but we don't need any of those stats in the attack. That just feels like it's wasting stats on us. Same with the hit points and defenses. Like, 173 special attack with a really defensive Pokemon would be absolutely nuts. But at 83 on the speed, it's not going to get us anywhere. We're going to get outsped by a lot, and we have to worry about scary amounts of damage. That Xurkitree actually falls into that lethal range of sweeper Pokemon, that if you're around 80 in the hit point, 70, 75, you know, mid-70s in the defenses, you're going to be susceptible to a lot of different attacks. So we even have to worry about more than just the Earthquake. Now what we're going to do is hop on over to Cerebi, and I'll show you guys what I mean when I say electric type Pokemon do not get great coverage, because Xurkitree is just going to be electric type moves, maybe a little bit on like the energy ball and the grass knot, and then for some reason they all just end up with the signal beam. So that's pretty much what we're looking at right there. Nothing huge, nothing big. That Thunder in Rain might be the most that we get out of Xurkitree for like high base power moves and stuff. But on that, Thunder has unreliable accuracy. Going to have to want to throw out the Thunderbolt with that 90 base power, which isn't absolutely nuts. We do have the Energy Ball for 90 base power, but that's not stab. So yeah, we don't really have too many crazy things to do with the Xurkitree. It's not going to like outspeed and pull some shenanigans, but it is just going to kind of sit there and do its own thing. So then what we can do is hop on over to Pokemon Showdown and check out the Xurkitree. So it still has Beast Boost. Like, Beast Boost is absolutely nuts and mind-blowing. Pokemon's highest stat is raised by 1 if the attack KOs another Pokemon. Well, what? Yeah, you don't even, it doesn't even matter anymore at that point, that you just gain all the stats that you need, but you need to get that first KO, and that's where Xurkitree experiences some problems. Also, 135 on a modest nature with that speed means if we are Choice Scarfing it, we still don't outspeed 135 base speed Pokemon. So we're locking ourselves with a Choice Scarf. We only get to use one move, and we only outspeed 130 base speed Pokemon and under. So that's going to be an interesting little thing right there. And also with the 173, we're not getting any extra damage. We're not crazily boosting it with a Life Orb. So our damage is going to drop off. Our speed is okay. I mean, we could take any hard-hitting Pokemon that might be a little tankier and slap a Choice Scarf on there. We can do a lot of other things, maybe get better coverage. But overall, Xurkitree, I feel it might actually work just for like Volt Switching good amounts of damage. That 70 base power on the Volt Switch with a 173 means you can just kind of bring it in, swap it out, and try to just fake out your opponent. That if you're just being mean and trying to bait your opponent every time, you bring in the Xurkitree, they throw out a hit, they try to do something predictable, you just go into a tanky Pokemon, well, they took free damage, and most likely you take less damage. So if you're playing your switches correctly, that means the Volt Switch is just going to be doing more damage to them, and if you go into a tanky Pokemon, preferably a Pokemon with a Regenerator, you might be able to play around the game a little better. So you might just be able to bring it in as a quick, zappy little pivot kind of Pokemon that in between, you know, say one of your Pokemon gets knocked out, say you have an opportunity for a free switch at some point, well, that's when you just use Xurkitree as like a mini momentum Pokemon, just like Xurkitree, quick tap on the Volt Switch, now you just go into the Pokemon you intended to go into, and that's going to work out right there. On that, Thunderbolt, Energy Ball, Hidden Power Ice, there's your coverage. There's nothing really special to talk about. You can also run the Timid Nature, but further strip, like, it's so hard because the way that natures work is that it gives you a 10% boost to that Pokemon's base stat. So by taking away 10% off of the 173, we are cutting out way too much damage, but we will find more reliable outspeeds. Either way though, if we're running like Timid with that Scarf, a Scarf Garchomp, even with an Adamant Nature, is still going to bash us in. So I feel like Modest is just going to be the best for the damage. As for other things Xurkitree gets, I know a lot of people were freaking out about the Tail Glow, and yes, a +3 Xurkitree will really just ruin everything in its path, but there's nothing to do with it. That you can't run Choice Scarf, so that means everything outspeeds you. Even though you're setting up the Tail Glow, you're still really frail, so a lot of Pokemon are going to be able to 2-hit KO you. You get outsped, you set up the Tail Glow, you get outsped again, well, now you're dead. Looking at some other move options, Dazzling Gleam, Fairy Coverage, Calm Mind, same boat as Tail Glow, Signal Beam, if you just want to tack in the Bug coverage, because maybe that'll help, but then you're Choice Scarfed, so that's really a big problem right there, that if you're Scarfing into Hidden Power Ice, cool, you come in and you Hidden Power Ice a Garchomp. That doesn't really change anything. You Energy Ball a Pokemon that's weak to it. That doesn't really change anything. Like, this is only going to be for Ground-type Pokemon. It's not really going to find you crazy amounts of KOs. So Xurkitree is going to be a really flashy kind of Pokemon that you're either chipping damage on the Volt Switch, or you hope you can finally commit to the Beast Boost. Like, that's what it takes. That if you can come in, say you remove all of your opponent's Ground-type Pokemon, that is how you have to play with Xurkitree. You have to build the team to where, okay, I have a lot of Pokemon that resist ground, I have a lot of Pokemon that I can just switch into freely, so a lot of tanky Pokemon to remove the things that would slow down the Xurkitree, then you come in, then you Thunderbolt, then you get the +1 on the Beast Boost, and then Xurkitree finally does anything. Compared to all the other crazy Pokemon out there that you could be running and other Ultra Beasts, that's why I don't have too much faith in what Xurkitree is capable of, and then it goes into all that. So now let's go check out some damage calculations, really see if any of this applies anywhere and actually makes any sense. So, Xurkitree, Thunderbolt against an average Pokemon. Let's take Weavile. Weavile, it's going to have 70 base hit points, 85 on that base special defense, and we don't KO it. I mean, that's kind of it. So Stealth Rocks will find the KO right there, but that's still a lot of setup. That means you have to have a super effective Stealth Rock come in with an average defensive Pokemon. Thunderbolt lands, and then that happens. So you get to outspeed it and KO it, but also it does have some good damage options in return. So it shows that Xurkitree is really susceptible to getting picked away at, and if you just kind of see, alright, it has to be Scarfed. If it isn't Scarfed, then my Sweeper's taking it out anyway. So there's a lot of really just weak points on the Xurkitree, and without that Life Orb, we're not finding crazy amounts of KOs to snowball. But if we do get that first one, then it is going to matter. I just want to keep running out some like other Xurkitree numbers right here. Dazzling Gleam doesn't really do too much. The Garchomp, Hidden Power Ice against the Garchomp will be enough, but it just kind of shows like Garchomp, no effort KOs us. That it doesn't even need Life Orb. If it is running Choice Scarf, we will just go straight down to that super effective hit. So things to consider right there. And then other things going on with the Xurkitree. Kangaskhan. So let's just take an above average. Like any special defense tank is going to be able to wall out the Xurkitree and just make it absolutely useless, even at the +1. So say we pick off a Pokemon, we KO something, we've got it good right now, +1 on the Xurkitree, we're unstoppable. So Mega Kangaskhan can come in, survive our +1 power play, and that's kind of all there is to it. Like, it just survives and then KOs us. Also, it doesn't even need to have the Double Edge. Fake out into something else will still be enough. It just kind of shows that you can chip away at the Xurkitree, you can force it out if it starts to gain an advantage and wants to snowball, and you can just straight up wall it. So I've just been kind of been saying that over and over again, and the more I go through and look at its moveset and stuff, like there's a lot of really cool pieces and stuff. Like the Calm Mind could work on some other Pokemon. The Hypnosis, if it was faster, maybe you could gamble on a Hypnosis and find some success right there into setup. But I feel that Xurkitree was a really interesting experiment. That I see a lot of experimentation going on in the 7th generation, what the Game Freak is going for, but it just kind of shows like Ultra Beasts on paper do some really dumb things, but it relies on that speed, or it relies on being grossly over tanky, not just being built off of the stats, because you are forced to go into that Choice Scarf. You are forced to try to get those snowballs going, and all these other things don't really work with that. Tail Glow, well, you can't status on Scarf. That doesn't really go out too well. The Ion Deluge, well, other Pokemon get that, and like Xurkitree isn't bulky enough to be some kind of awkward, weird support Pokemon. Gets the Rain Dance. So like I said, in double battles, things will change around for the Xurkitree. That in double battles, you can Scarf the Thunder, and then that's going to change around your damage numbers substantially. So let's go change the Thunderbolt, or the Thunder to Thunderbolt, and that shows, yeah, now we're one-hit KOing those Pokemon in the rain, even with our Scarf, even with our Modest Nature. So that kind of shows that we have to combo it just right, and maybe there'll be more success in those double battles. But also, what about the kind of picking apart the opponent method with the Xurkitree? That seems to do a little better, because Volt Switch is 2-hit KOing fools. But you're not making the most advantage of your Beast Boost, you're not getting the most advantage out of that. So pretty much, it's just like the hardest hitting Volt Switch Annoyance Pokemon, and if your opponent catches on to you, like they see, alright, every time Xurkitree goes in, it just goes for Volt Switch, even if it goes for Thunderbolt, I'm still not really too worried. Like, your opponent, if they understand what's going on, they can make a read that if they get your prediction down, well, then they just do more damage, and then that's kind of reducing your impact right there. Or if they predict the Volt Switch, they just switch into a Ground-type Pokemon. Now you're not getting the free switch out from the Volt Switch. Now you're not getting really anything out of that you're forced to switch because you're scarfed into a really bad scenario, and then you just get to be taken advantage of. So it does sound pretty cool. Like, the Volt Switch does do a lot of damage, even against something like a Mega Kangaskhan, that 100 on base special defense, even at the +1, doing good amounts of damage. At the +0, still enough to make it matter. Like, no Pokemon just wants to be coming in at 60%. No Pokemon wants to lose half of its health for free, so the Xurkitree can work out like that. But it's a very specific playstyle. I feel like that the playstyle is easily walled out by things like, let's go and bring in an Amoonguss. Amoonguss, that's going to resist you. The Volt Switch isn't really doing too much. The Hidden Power Ice isn't even finding enough to KO because, alright, then you just Black Sludge at the end turn. You can heal up through whatever the Xurkitree is trying to pull, and then you can also do some other things. So I feel like it has power, it can do a lot, and I'm not saying like it's bad and it'll never work. It can work, but I feel like it's way too gambly, especially for an Ultra Beast. Like, you look at what an Ultra Beast can do, and they're not that gambly, that you can just kind of go in and win with it. But the Xurkitree is easy to read, easy to wall out, so I think there might be some issues right there, and that's what I've got to say. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.